Today we'll be giving you a presentation for English literature about the book we chose, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies is written by William Golding and has won a lot of prizes. It is well known on schools, and in the UK it's chosen third of best school books.
Table of contents. Today we'll be talking about who was William Golding, main characters, backstory and plot overview, literary devices, our opinion and that of others. Who was William Golding? William Golding was born in the 19th century, 1911 on the 19th of September. He would go on to study at the University of Oxford and later on also fight in World War II. He served in the Royal Navy, and he was also involved for the hunt of the Bismarck, one of Germany's biggest ships. He was also present at the invasion of Normandy during D-Day, and later on he would go on to become a teacher and writer. After the war, he wrote his world-famous book Lord of the Flies, which became an instant classic. He would go on to receive many prizes for it, and later on he would be knighted by Queen Elizabeth II and became Sir William Golding for his work, for his book. And there's also a couple of movie adaptations, one made in 1963 and the other one made in 1990. William Golding would go on to live until 1993 and pass away at the age of 82. What got William Golding to write the book Lord of the Flies? He said that the book reflects the change in human nature after World War II. He would also go on to explain that the book was formed by the experience he himself had during the war.
The main characters of the book are Rolf, Piggy, Jack, Simon, Samric and the Beast. Rolf is in the first part of the book the leader of the group, and it's told in his perspective. Rolf is a very optimistic boy and motivated to get everyone home. Piggy is loyal to Rolf and is a very heavy kid with spectacles, which they use as a lighter. He gets picked on by the rest of the boys because of his weight. Jack is the leader of the choir and the leader of the hunters on the island. Eventually he turns everyone against Rolf because he wants to take the lead and he wants to have fun on the island. Simon is a very silent kid and very loyal to Rolf. He is but that eventually is the reason why he dies. Samric are twins. They are also loyal to Rolf, but when Piggy gets killed, they don't know who to follow or what to do anymore. And the Beast is not a real thing, but it has a huge influence on the boys on the island. Especially Jack uses the Beast as a tool to turn everyone against Rolf and a motive to kill Rolf. This is the backstory of the book Lord of the Flies. A co-worker told my mother that Lord of the Flies is based on a true story. A plane was crashing on an island with a lot of boys in it, and they had to survive until a captain tried to save them. In the book, the situation gets really tense and it ends with killing each other. But in this story, when two boys get a fight, they have to cool down on the other side of the island, and so they survived a couple of months. I thought it was a really interesting story, so I searched it up. But fortunately it was a false story. But parallels have been drawn with Lord of the Flies in 1965, so after the book was published. There was actually a plane crashing on an island, on the island Ata. Those boys survived for 15 months and they did really great because they built their own community on this island with a gym, a baseball field and all other things. And after 15 months they get rescued by a captain and they were in a very good shape and very good spirit, so they aren't scarred by this experience.
The plot overview. The book starts out with a couple of British school children who are in a plane and are being evacuated. And the plane eventually crashes on a deserted island and the children are stranded. Eventually they'll select a leader, which is Ralph, which we talked about earlier. And the other boy, Piggy, finds a seashell called the conch, which can be used as a horn to summon all the other children. Eventually they democratically elect Ralph as their leader, and Ralph elects Jack as sort of a second leader, and he becomes the leader of the hunters who have to hunt for food and keep a watch for the fire, because they'll have to make a fire if they want to get out of the island. Like I said before, the children decide to make a giant fire, which they put on a big rock. This is used so if a nearby ship sees the fire, it may come and rescue them. But the children are too much occupied with playing instead of watching the fire. So eventually it spreads out of control and burns like half of the island. There's a lot of dead wood laying around, and one child goes missing, and they presume he might have burned to death in the giant fire. Later on, in the third part of the book, the children just continue playing and not watching the fire. Ralph eventually fears the fire may go out, and the hunters come back from their first hunt but fail to capture a boar, which means the children still don't really have any food, and the hunters are also in some kind of frenzy and want to keep going after animals and kill them for food. Later on in the fourth part, Ralph and Piggy spot a ship on the horizon, and they go back to see if the fire is still going, but to their disbelief it's gone out. This makes Ralph really angry with the hunters, because they're supposed to keep the fire on, but not really long after the hunters come back with their first kill, and they seem to be really obsessed with it, especially their leader Jack. He wants to go after more animals and hunt more, which makes Ralph really mad, and eventually Jack hits Piggy right in the face, breaking his glasses. There's also a fear of a beast lurking in the shadows while they sleep, but they haven't really seen this beast yet, and it's not quite sure if there's actually one, but we'll see that later on in the book. During the fifth part of the book, there's actually a plane battle going on above the island while the children are asleep. Eventually one of the pilots, who is in one of these planes, comes crashing down with his parachute. He dies on landing, and the twins, who are two people who are supposed to watch the fire during that night, fell asleep. And when they wake up, they see the silhouette of the pilot and hear the noise the flapping of his parachute makes in the wind. This really scares them, and they go back to the group talking about this beast I was mentioning earlier. This creates a lot of fear, and Jack and Ralph decide to go out on some kind of scouting expedition, and they'll go up a mountain and see the parachute of the pilot, which they then think is a big giant ape, which creates even more fear, and eventually this leads to a break apart in the group, with one part of the group following Ralph and the other one following Jack.
In the sixth part of the book, the tension between all the boys gets really high, what eventually turns into killing people. The first one to die was Simon. He was pushed off a cliff. The second one was Piggy, the best friend of Ralph on the island. What turns into Samrick turning to Jack's side. And at the end of the book, they chase Ralph and trying to kill him. What leads to the island on fire. They set the island on fire to close him in, but before they finally catch him, there's a boat that is saving them and brings them home.
The location. This is what the island of Lord of the Flies is supposed to look like. We're not sure if it actually looked like this, but this is the best representation we could find.
You here have the lagoon and the shelters. In the shelters they are sleeping at night, and in the lagoon they use it to wash themselves and to go to the bathroom. At the assembly area, when they want to start an assembly, they blow on the conch. That's a shell that Rolf and Piggy found on the island. When they blow on it, all Lidlands and everyone else comes to this place to discuss important plans and things that they do next. And then at the Castle Rock, in the end of the book, this is the hideout where Jack and his followers stay.
You also have, as you can see, the mountain, which is the place where Jack and Ralph climbed up during their scouting expedition and saw the giant parachute of the dead pilot. You also over here have the Lord of the Flies. After they killed the pig in the fourth part of the book, the hunters put his head up on a stake, and as it rots even more after the pig's death, a lot of flies are attracted to it, and this is mainly why it's called Lord of the Flies. And this pig head is also an offer to the beast, because they still think there's some kind of beast out there, but it's mainly fear, and there's not really anything out there.
In the book there are a lot of different uses of literary devices, but today we're going to talk about 4 of them. The first one is action. The main action of the book is the plane crashing on the island. On the island they have a very bad life. Ralph wants to save everyone, but Jack wants to have fun, and eventually he drives crazy and wants to kill Ralph. The rising action is Ralph's attempt to get order and safety, and this falling action is his escape from Jack and the hunters. The antagonist of the book is Jack Merridew. He is against the order and civilization that Ralph and Piggy wants to get on the island. He doesn't see that it's a really serious subject to get away from this island. He just sees the fun of it. On the island there are 2 types of conflict. One with the boys against nature. They have to survive on the island and find food to survive. And a conflict among them. The largest conflict in the book is between Jack and Ralph. The 4th literary device is mood. In the beginning of the book it is very entertaining and it's interesting to see how they're trying to survive. But further on in the book it is really somber and horrifying when they start killing each other and have a big fight, setting fires on the island.
Other people's reviews. Lord of the Flies has been reviewed by many over the past couple of decades, and it's seen as a quite great and amazing book. The Guardian said that, quote, "On the outside, Lord of the Flies may appear to be simply a story about boys trying to live on a deserted island, but reading between the lines will allow the reader to understand and appreciate the dark hints that make this story truly exciting and magnificent in every respect," unquote. This review was quite good and had a lot of praise for the book, especially in its storytelling. UK essay was also very positive, and had this to say, quote, "Society has never changed from the standpoint of human nature and behavior. An individual is given a choice and it's up to him or her to choose the path to take. Whether it's choosing to be civil or savage, or in terms of the novel, choosing to set up bonfires for rescue or hunt pigs for food." This review is also very positive and highlights the great things they used in the plot to show the children, many of the children slowly but surely getting or losing their minds on the island as they stay there for a longer period of time. Our opinion of the book. Well, I'll start out. I thought it was a pretty amazing book. I heard a lot of things about it and the praise it has gotten over the past couple of years, and especially if there's like a situation where people are stranded on an island and they have to survive, usually they'll compare it to Lord of the Flies because it's such an iconic novel.
Jarne chose this book for our group. I haven't done any research about it before I read it, so it was a whole new book for me. I found it very interesting to read, and in the beginning it was a fun, enjoyable book, but in the ending it became a scary, adventurous book. I thought that was really cool.
I also like that the plot went from incredibly fun, like just children having fun on an island, and later on them becoming so obsessed with finding this monster they created in their own heads, and this leading to actually people getting killed, actual children dying to other children, which is very crazy to think about. And I think the writer did an amazing job with this novel.
Yes, William Golding had a great way to describe the feelings change of the characters. You can really feel that Jack and Ralph, their emotions. You can read that very good in this book, and I thought that was cool.
It's also very nice that the plot is like pretty well written with in like every paragraph there's something happening and a situation that they need to work around and work together to solve or work against each other, which is really cool. And I'm not sure about his other works, but if they're as good as this one, I'll probably have to read them as well. This was our presentation actually, so thank you for listening.
Namaste.
Namaste.